Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Talking Brazil Ball. I'm your host, James Brook, and I'm here once again with my co host, George, and we're here to run through match day 4 of the Brasileirão season. How are we doing today, George?
Yeah, not too bad, James. Not so bad. Weather's getting a bit better, isn't it? Been a decent day today, so yeah, we're rock and rolling. How are you
Yeah,
doing?
very nice day, very nice day. It seems to have jumped in temperature a bit, so been
Yeah,
painting
definitely. I mean,
the
yeah, you said you've been painting. Have you? Is it inside painting? Is it outside painting?
outside, painting the garden fence outside. So pretty long job, not
Right.
particularly, not particularly. Exciting or anything, but it looks really nice now. So it's nice to get that done once the sun kind of gets out and cracking. It's been a long time coming, so I'm sure all the listeners, wherever they're listening, will be hopefully enjoying the sunshine. Or if not, then you can imagine you're here in sunny West Yorkshire, enjoying it with us anyway.
Absolutely. I mean, I've seen a few new places on the where the sort of map of who's listening. So yeah, so
Oh
that's
yeah,
that's great. So
where
yeah,
have we got from?
seems James, we've got a bit of an influx of Danish listeners. So
Mm.
welcome to anybody listening in Denmark. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say hello in Danish, but yeah, I hope you're enjoying it. You know what I mean? And it's noticed where you're listening, so enjoy it. And it looks like yeah, it was another packed weekend, wasn't it? Oh, it spanned a full 4 days, didn't it, James? This match day. I mean, we've only just finished it, really, as of recording on very early Tuesday morning, and we're now in Tuesday evening. So yeah, it was a full match day, wasn't it?
Yep, lots of fixtures to get through. So some surprising results, really. A couple of one or two that we didn't really see coming. I don't think we did so well in the predictions this week, but that's the
You
nature of the beast, really,
you
isn't it?
got 4 points, James. I got two. So
Oof.
the only points I got was to predict the right score for Gallo. I predicted perfect score. I think you
Mm,
got perfect score for Juventud against
yeah.
Paranense. So, and that just added a couple of more points onto your total already. So it was a poor, certainly a poor. You say we didn't see it coming. We definitely didn't. So yeah.
No, not at all. So, well, let's get to it then. Let's get running through those fixtures and recap what happened in match day 4. Of course, if you were listening last time, you'll remember that we were focusing on our match of the weeks. George took the Sao Paulo derby, the Choco Rei, Sao Paulo against Palmeiras, and I looked at Flamengo against Botafogo, which is the Clásico Vovo, a Rio derby. So we'll look at those in a minute. George, you want to just run through and let everybody know what happened on match day 4?
Yeah, it would be my pleasure, James. So
You're in
here we go.
charge of the music this time,
I
aren't you?
am
So
as well, so I can stop and start it. So here we go then.
there we go. Whoa, there you go.
So it started match day 4 on Saturday, the 27th of April, with Vasco da Gama nil, Criciúma 4. Massive result for them. I think it was their first win of the season. We as well on Saturday evening was Cuba nil, Galo 3, which, like I said, I predicted perfectly. Into Sunday morning, then it was Bahia 1, Grêmio nil. And then into Sunday. Sunday afternoon saw a massive win for Botafogo, as you'll touch on, James. Like you said in a minute or so, 2-0 winners at Flamengo. Corinthians 3-0 winners against Fluminense. Cruzeiro 3, Vitória 1. Fortaleza 1, Red Bull Bragantino 1, Juventud 1, Paranense 1, and then into Monday, very early Monday morning, Inter 1, Atletico Go 1, and then, like we said, rounding up the match day 4 was a goalless draw in the Sao Paulo derby. Sao Paulo nil, Palmeiras nil, and that concludes it, James.
There you go. Well done. It was, yeah, some big results, some kind of disappointing results for some teams, and a disappointing match again for you, really, George. I think your game of the week last week was a 0-0 draw,
It,
wasn't it?
it, it was. Palmeiras again, James, and look at Palmeiras, 1 goal from 4 games. As defending champions, it's a horrible start, isn't it? Really. So yeah, I'm sure we'll chew over it in a few minutes.
Well, let's chew over it now. So let's go into the Sao Paulo derby. Sao Paulo nil, Palmeiras nil. A disappointing result for Palmeiras, certainly. The Sao Paulo were, as we decided this one as one of the fixtures of the week, based on, well, because it's a big game, obviously in one of the biggest cities in Brazil, two of the biggest teams, but also it was the first home game for the new manager, Zubaldia. He did have I think it was a Copa Sudamericana. I think they won in midweek, and that was his first fixture, full stop, in charge. But it was his first one in front of the home crowd. So what did you kind of pick out from the game? Again, not much to say perhaps on this one, but an interesting result.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, James, he beat Ecuadorian side Barcelona SC. That was an away game, so it was his first home game. Taste the home atmosphere, and I think Sao Paulo will be pretty happy with this point. Really, he would see it as probably a good start to his campaign, really, in his career at Sao Paulo. But there was no real chances, James. There was no real shots. It was a real disappointing, dull game, really. Again, the second one, like you said, I've covered in the matter of weeks, really. Palmeiras in particular, incredibly disappointing. Only one, I think they only had 3 shots on target the whole game, and Sao Paulo only had just the one. So you can see that it was just not a very exciting match. I think I saw one sort of reporter, he labelled it as a bit of a chess match. So you can see from his sort of point of view where it was kind of, lots of possession, lots of, trying to break each other down in the middle of the park. And from the highlights, not a great deal at all. I think Palmeiras had one cleared off the line. But like I said, only 1 goal, and that came in the first game of the season. No goals in 3 games for Palmeiras. I know they won in the Libertadores in midweek, but that seems their only way to win at the moment. So they've got the cup coming up, James, against Botafogo SP, which is a lower league, obviously, in Botafogo. Brazilian Cup on Friday. Then they play again on Sunday evening. So it's a quick turnaround for them. And there's a real build-up of pressure. I think I saw Ferreira talking about your favourite man, James, Veiga. I think he's again saying he should be protecting him, kind of thing. And he was defending him. I think it sounds like he's coming through with a bit of stick from the fans, really. Also coming through a bit of stick from the fans on the Sao Paulo side was Luciano Neves, who I saw some, people lamenting his finishing ability in this game. Also, somebody said he couldn't finish in a sock, which was a little bit crude, really. But there you go. But also, just to round it off, James, little bits I saw. Jaden Smith, I think, wasn't at the game, but he was given a Sao Paulo shirt, and he was showing it off on Instagram. Got the fans excited, and Sao Paulo Insta themselves, I think, enjoyed that one. I think it was giving away the Sao Paulo shirt to a number of top athletes, including NBA players, to show it off, and because they're sponsored by New Balance, so there was no Egypt show at the game, I don't think, or he certainly wasn't shown this time. But full of stars in Sao Paulo and Sao Paulo teams. So sure, they're pretty happy with it. I'm sure there's pressure coming now, James, on Ferreira, to be honest with you. But if they don't win in the next couple, I think there's going to be questions asked of him, to be honest.
Yeah, you'd have thought so. I mean, it's relatively tough start in terms of fixtures. If you look at the 4 games they've played, Vitória, the one they obviously won, which was the only goal they've scored, and then a loss against Inter with some mitigating kind of factors with the stadium. The Flamengo game is obviously a big game at home. They'd expect to win maybe, but away at Sao Paulo again in the derby, a little bit of a tough start. So not the best for them, but I'm sure they'll be looking ahead and thinking maybe they've got a few tricky ones out of the way there. And they've only lost once as well. I know it's not a perfect start at all. And I think Ferreira, you'd have thought he'd have earned the grace of some time, but we know how it works in Brazil, and maybe he hasn't, maybe a couple of results, and all of a sudden everything he's done is running against him. But anything else you managed to pick out of that one just before we move on to the second game of the week?
I don't think so, James. I mean, what I want to really ask the question is of like, I just wonder why they're stumbling. Like you said, there has been some factors in terms of the Inter loss, the stadium change and everything like that. There has been some difficult games, the Sao Paulo derby. This one, Flamengo's a difficult match. But, I just want to know, really, he keeps playing Hendrick. And I know Hendrick's like the star man, but he's going soon. And I do wonder, is it worth him changing it about a bit? Hendrick got whipped off in the 66th minute of this game. But I think he keeps playing him, and you just wonder, do you just stop focus on him so much? Because I've seen a whole highlights reel of how Hendrick played in this game, and it was just all like sideways passes and this sort of thing. You just think, is his mind elsewhere? Which it's gonna be, because he's on the way to Real Madrid. They've got the Copa America coming up as well for Brazil. Is he going to be all there for Palmeiras as much as he wants to be? I just wonder, would it be worth him, perhaps, looking at the other ideas? I know Guilherme, who you rate highly, don't you? He's won another one. I think I know it was Ronnie. I think he came on for Ronnie. But again, they've got players that are coming through. Is it time to just blood them in instead of keeping persisting with Hendrick because he's going?
Yeah, well, I do wonder. I mean, it's a valid point. Guilherme might well be on his way as well, but Hendrick, we know, is certain to be going. So it's a valid point. He hasn't lit up the season at all so far, hasn't really got going, and before you know it, he will be going. So whether he wants to or not, Ferreira's going to have to work out a way to play without him. But anyway, let's move on. So that was the Sao Paulo derby, the Shocker Ray. 0-0 draw, a disappointing result for Palmeiras, and for Sao Paulo, just a word on them, a good result for them in Zubeldia's the first home game and a way to kick on. So let's move on. So the other game we were looking at, like I said, was a Clásico Vovo, the Grandpa derby they call it, which is Flamengo against Botafogo. It was at the Maracanã, so Flamengo looking to build on a decent start to the season. Really, not perfect for one of the big boys, but a decent kind of start. But in the end, it was Botafogo who just came out and really laid down a marker, to be quite fair. A big result early in the season, and it moves them top of the table, this 2-0 win. And they've got 4 wins in a row in all competitions, 3 in the league after having lost the first game. So they're on 9 points, I think, right at the top of the table. And it was just one of those games where Flamengo threw a little bit of everything they could, but never really seemed to get even close to scoring. They actually had 15 shots in the game, but didn't have a single one on target. And that was the first time that had happened in 10 years in the Serie A in Brazil, at the Maracanã for Flamengo. First time in 10 years that they hadn't had a shot on target in a whole game. So whether that's a mixture of poor finishing or good defending, it's hard to really say. They did seem to have a few kind of half chances. They did score a goal, which was rightly ruled out for offside, but they just couldn't get near Botafogo. When the Botafogo turned it up, they made it count. Luis Enrique scored a wonderful goal, which we're going to talk about a little bit later on when we come to our player of the round. But I don't know if you saw his goal celebration. Georgie did Wakanda, the Black Panther. Is it Black Panther? Yeah, with a mask on. The reason he did that apparently is somebody called him it at Betis. It's a nickname, I think, the Black Panther. I don't know if anybody else calls him it, but somebody at Betis apparently did. And he's been whipping out the mask every now and again since then. He scored his first goal midweek in the Libertadores. Apparently he wanted to do it then, but he didn't have time, he said, to find the mask. And this time at the Maracanã, he pulled out the mask and did his kind of crossed arms celebration with this kind of transformer-looking mask on. So a big moment for him, first goal on home turf in Serie A. I don't know what you made of it, George. Did you see the celebration, and what were your thoughts? I know you've got some specific thoughts about celebrating goals and things. So good
Yeah, no,
celebration.
but he wasn't playing against the former club, was he? That's what we discussed last time, wasn't it, James? I mean, I loved it. To be fair, Wakanda forever for Henrique, wasn't it? And I don't know where he got the mask from, but you know,
No,
and it got me thinking about other sort of mask celebrations, and I couldn't quite think of too many. I know there would be the fella for Wolves, and the
Jimenez.
Jimenez, yes, Jimenez, and there's also Gutierrez for Newcastle pulled out the Spider-Man mask, didn't he? But you don't see it often, and fair enough. I really like this goal. You seem to dismiss it a little bit, but I thought it was. I know you. I thought you said it was just a sort of standard kind of thing.
No, come on. You were talking about Savarino's goal. No,
Oh
this
no!
was a
Oh
great goal.
no! Oh no! I was no. I thought. Oh right, you were talking about that. I thought you were talking about this one. But no,
No,
this one was a lovely goal as well, and he did right to celebrate. You know what I mean? I fully enjoyed that. You know what I mean? Even though, like we know, I've got a little bit of a soft spot for Flamengo, but yeah, well beaten, and fair play to Botafogo. And I would just say as well, James, it is actually. I know you said it's not a year to the day, this one, but on the day it was played, it was 2 years shy of a year to the day since Botafogo beat Flamengo at the same stadium last season.
2 days shy. 2
Yeah,
days. 2 years shy.
Sorry, 2 days. Sorry, James. Yeah, I corrected you on a piece in the last time. It's now your turn to correct me on something this time. So fair enough. Yeah, 2 days shy of a whole year since he went and beat them at 3-2. 30th, it is actually an anniversary of that game today. 30th of April 2023, Flamengo 2, Botafogo 3. And then the 28th of April 2024, Flamengo 0, Botafogo 2. So looks like they've got a bit of a hold on them, James, on late April.
Perhaps, yeah. Well, I mean, you talk about mass celebrations. You missed off my favourite one, Facundo Sava. Don't you remember? If you remember him, he used to wear like a Zorro mask. He was a Fulham player. They had Sava and
Oh,
Sahar at the same time. Facundo Sava used to
they had
pull
a,
out the little. It was just an eye mask,
oh yes,
a
they had a,
Zorro one.
they
That
had a
was a
great team, didn't they, James?
they did, yeah.
With a
And
Pizza
then,
Hut
yeah,
sponsor.
Pizza Hut sponsor. Yeah, that's right. So, anyway, second goal as well was a good one. I mean, interestingly, the second one from Savarino, who we are going to touch on, was John Textor, as we know, is the owner of Botafogo, and he seems to have a hand in a few different bits and pieces. And he does own apparently a company, like an analyst company, or somebody who analyzes in-game decisions and refereeing decisions and things. It's called Good Game with an exclamation mark. And they actually decided that the second goal shouldn't have counted. It should have been a free kick, apparently, to Flamengo. So John Textor's own company deciding that it shouldn't have been a goal, but it was a goal. Nobody gave it. Nobody ruled it. The VAR were happy with it, so it did go. It did go to 2-0 in the end, and that's how it stayed. And Botafogo rightly very happy with their result. Flamengo obviously. With Tite in charge, he's a very experienced manager. He knows how to handle a result like this. He said afterwards something along the lines of it's time to be quiet and absorb the criticism. Not wanting to go overboard and just kind of saying congratulations to Botafogo and that kind of thing. So big result for Botafogo, puts them top of the table. They've started really well, as they did last year. They look a little bit more solid this time. I mean, the manager, Arthur George, doesn't look like he's really going anywhere. So as long as they stick with him, keep playing the football they've been playing, we saw them score a wonderful goal last week, then they're really looking like they're going to be challenging up there again. So big result. Flamengo will need to pick themselves up. But other than that, yeah, but enjoyed covering that one, a Rio derby, and gave a little bit more than the Sao Paulo derby this time. So I don't know if you had any more thoughts on the game, George, before we move on.
No, not really, James. I just sort of echo your thoughts there on kind of like if they keep part of George, who started really, really well, hasn't he? A bit of stability. I think they'll do all right. I mean, I sort of dismissed them a little bit in my sort of predictions, sort of, final table and that sort of thing. But, maybe they'll be up there again. Like you said, they started so well. We've seen it before last season. They started so well and really dropped off towards the sort of back end of it. So let's wait and see if they can go a bit further and carry on that momentum. And as for Flamengo, like you said, Tite won't panic. He's an experienced manager. There's plenty of football to be played and plenty of time for them to hit the heights they did, that they'd hoped to. They didn't do last season, but yeah, let's wait and see. But yeah, great win for Botafogo. Let's see how they can, if they can carry it on.
Well, it brings us nicely into the Player of the Round awards. So the man, I mean, it was the biggest game of the weekend, really, this game, in terms of a team going and beating one of the big sides can affect the top of the table. Maybe it will at the end of the season. These things often can do. That both teams look like they'll be challenging. So I'm going to hand this one to you, George, because you were really pushing for this guy to be Player of the Round. I mean, I must admit, I don't agree at all. I really, like I say, we don't see the full game, so we're judging it off kind of various little bits and pieces. But if you score, you get an assist. If you do both, you're going to be right in the mix. But before we introduce a guy who won it, I would just like to touch on the guy who I thought really should have maybe won it, which is Yannick Bolasie. And I thought the other chap who really was in with the shout was Mateus from Criciúma. So Criciúma went and won 4-0 at Vasco da Gama away in Vasco. Huge result for them, and they absolutely battered them. And there were some absolutely brilliant goals in there, which we'll talk about later. But Bolasie, we spoke about him a lot in the build-up to the series. We know him well from Palace and Everton and whatever else he played for in England. He's a well-known figure, and he's gone to Brazil and he's having the time of his life, really. He set up 2 goals in this one and scored one as well, which was a lovely goal. Bit of on the break, cut inside, finished it nicely. And I saw a clip of him standing on the ball and doing like a twirl around the ball as well. And he just looked to be having a great time. And for me, that's the kind of thing we want to be seeing. But George has gone for the more clinical option this time. And you want to tell us why you've gone for Mr. Jefferson Savarino of Botafogo as this week's Player of the Round?
Yeah, I do. I will. And it's nothing against Bolasie. I thought he had a fabulous game. Like you said, it was such a great performance and result for Criciúma. His first goal in Brazil, and like you said, looked like he really enjoyed himself. And he's a player, although he might be over the hill for the English divisions, or at least at the English top division, definitely in the Brazilian first division, he's sort of in his element. Really, he's a bag of tricks, and he's got pace and he can finish off. And it was a lovely goal from him. So there was nothing against him. In any other week, I would have probably picked him out. But and agreed with you, James. But I think I've gone with Jefferson Savarino, and I was so adamant that he should get it, really, because of the leverage, the magnitude, of the win that Botafogo got, and over Flamengo at Flamengo. Like you said, it could yet have a bearing on what the end up result could be and what Botafogo's fortunes could be for the season. Obviously, like you said, we sort of base it on who gets an assist, who scores a goal, because we don't currently watch the games, and that's what happens, isn't it? Getting goals, win points, assists, and that sort of thing. So why wouldn't you go on that? And in this game, he got an assist, he scored a goal. Like I said, the magnitude of the win, the opponent that they were playing against, I just felt like that had to come into consideration, and that's why I was pushing so hard for him to get it. But like I said, Bolasie had a wonderful week. Hopefully he can go on and have another one next time. But yeah, well,
I think Savarino, because I think it's important to look as well when we're giving out these awards on the kind of the quality of everything. And to be fair to Savarino, I'm doing him down a bit, but he has really affected the game. And the assist that he gets for Luis Enrique's goal is a really well weighted corner. He dinks it. He picks out Enrique on the edge of the box. And it's it's not a given that you'll find him there. He just kind of lofts it out nicely for Enrique to perfectly run onto it. And I couldn't quite tell if he'd volleyed it or if it bounced just before. It was a bit tricky to say.
I think it was like a half volley, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it just kind of bounced. Yeah, but he was picked out brilliantly on the edge of the box, floated in. Great presence of mind to stand that one up there, and Enrique finished it off. And then the goal was, a nice tidy finish as well, right at the end of the game, I think, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
it was he had an impact for the opening goal and for the second one as well. And yeah, you can't really begrudge him. I'm being a bit facetious, really, but I did enjoy Velasquez's performance, and Mateus as well for Criciúma, who we will touch on later on. But yeah, he's an interesting character. Jefferson Savarino, Venezuelan winger, 27 years old. It's actually his first season at Botafogo, so he's joined from Real Salt Lake in the US this year. And he's had a good start, 5 goals already across all the various competitions, and he is experienced in Brazil. He did win the title with your club, Galo, George. So maybe this is why you're kind of leaning towards him.
Potentially, subconsciously, get the rooster, the rooster boys,
the Franga connection, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I didn't actually realise that up until this moment, actually. But yeah, fair enough. He's had a good time already. So I had to give him, like you said, you doing him down a little bit, but yeah, I thought just like I said, the magnitude of the win and the way that he did it was a lovely goal. That Henrique one, I really enjoyed that. Just like you said, it wasn't a given that he'd pick him out, and he was just there. It was a lovely finish right into the corner, and like first time finish. I mean, it was a great goal, and had to be up there as well in the conversations, I think, for goal of the week for me as well.
Yeah, I agree with you, actually. Yeah, I do. And it was one of those, I think, where you were talking about the goals going slanting at the bottom. It was one of those, where it went kind of right in the corner. Nothing the keeper could do about it. And yeah, look, good celebration and everything. I just wanted to say about Botafogo, well, not in general. I don't know if you know this, George. I saw earlier today on Twitter. I mean, it wasn't to do with this game. It was to do with Corinthians. Corinthians had got a new shirt being leaked, for this season. But obviously the season's already underway, and I know some teams. I think Sao Paulo, that kind of thing you were saying with the athletes, that must be to do with their new shirt, perhaps promoting it via New Balance. They seem to bring them out at different kind of times, and they start the season with an old shirt, then they get a different one. Do you know what the score is on that?
I've no idea, James, but I think it is similar to this, where, like I said, Sao Paulo, they gave out their new. I think it is a New Balance kicks. I don't know. I wasn't so looking at it so hard to notice whether they start the season in this strip, but it's I think it's the away kit, the black and red stripes. And I don't know. Maybe it's just to promote a new shirt. Who knows? But it's very, like we said before, it's quite difficult to follow, isn't it? Really, with what's going on in a way, because we're kind of, neither of us speak Portuguese, particularly on a fluent level, and you're just kind of looking at pictures and kind of piecing it together a little bit, aren't you? But I did notice actually that Galo. They did, like, I think they're celebrating like autism awareness. I think there are a few clubs. I noticed Corinthians as well. The backs of the shirts, the numbers were in like little multicolored jigsaw pieces, to celebrate autism awareness, which I think was at the start of April. But I don't know why they're just coming into it now. No, Galo, they did. I like this because they did the patches. The patches on the side of the shirts, James. But they did a rooster, like the same situation, in like made out of little multicolored jigsaw pieces, and I think they had that on the shirt for their win at Cuiabá on Saturday evening. So I don't know, but I don't know in terms of the shirts. It's a difficult one, isn't it? You know what I mean? And also they don't ship to the UK, a lot of them, do they? So it's a little bit disappointing, really.
Yeah, Cruzeiro had a new one as well, and they seem to be promoting a new away shirt. So we'll have to keep an eye on them. And I'm sure they will. I think they do bring them out just kind of randomly sometimes.
They seem to, don't they? Yeah.
There's plenty of special ones and stuff. So yeah, I mean, well, we went a bit off track there, but that's our player of the round this week. Well done to Mr. Jefferson Savarino, a well deserved, despite my protests, a well deserved winner, and
through gritted teeth.
Through gritted teeth, yeah, he's having a good season. So best of luck to him. One that there was absolutely no questions about, you'll be happy to hear, listeners, is the young player of the round. And you were saying a little bit, George, it's a bit tricky to pick this one, and it is a little just because, it's a bit more kind of intricate trying to pick a young player. You don't just look at somebody who's had a couple of goals or something like that. So we have to have a look and see who's playing and everything. But this was not a difficult one at all. I mean, when you've got a young player who goes and scores 2 goals of such quality, you have to give it him. And I think we have to just specify that the young player of the round can't win the player of the round. So if you're the young player of the round, you're not going to be player of the round. And otherwise, this gentleman would have had a shout at being so. I think, George, do you want to introduce the young player of the round for Matchday 4?
Well, it's Wesley James, the 19-year-old winger from Corinthians. Like you said, he got a couple of really, really nice goals. It wasn't just goals, because like you said, I was saying to you, weren't I, it's a little bit difficult to pick a young player if, like we're not watching the games, like we said, and also like because you're sort of praying on for one of them to do something, like score a goal or get an assist or something like that, and then he comes out with not just a goal, 2 goals, and not just average goals. They were wonderful goals. First one was a long range effort, one tip from the edge of the box. Second one was brilliant. I mean, 19-year-old doing that against a team who are well experienced in Fluminense, just danced past him into the box and put it in the net. It was great, and at a time as well, which is so important in the game. Last few minutes of the first half, he went and scored twice. So yeah, incredible. And like you said, he was the only man to to really come close. There was a sort of late sort of entry, wasn't there, from Fortaleza for Andrade, but I don't think you couldn't. We'd already made his mind up. Really, you couldn't beat Wesley there. It was a fantastic result as well for Corinthians.
Yeah, Kevin Andrade, he's got a bit of a long ranger for Fortaleza. It's a bit of a funny celebration as well. He smashed it in with his right foot from range. For me, keeper should do better. It was a decent hit, but the keeper should save it as near post. He kind of pulled his shorts up and pointed at his quads, as if to say, look at that traction engine. But yeah, exactly. I mean, he couldn't knock off Wesley. The first one's a good enough strike from distance. The second one's just obscene, really. He beats about 3 of them, slaloms inside out, finishes it beautifully, and it could have won goal of the round as well. I think we need to decide if we can give a multiple, the goal of the round to the player or the young player. We did it already once, but I think we can do. And this one would have been in the conversation. It was a really lovely goal, and I think the biggest thing about this is that Corinthians hadn't scored a goal yet in the league. They were 3 games without a goal, only 1 point, looking a bit doom and gloom for Antonio Oliveira. And Wesley Gassava is the guy who's kind of become the go-to one, really. He's the one who's going to lift them. He's the one who, it's everything on his shoulders. And for such a young player, that shows you that he is a real talent, and he is one of these ones who we're going to watch closely, because I think Wesley will make the move to Europe sooner rather than later. I know West Ham have been quite strongly linked. To be quite honest, I think his ceiling is much higher than, or maybe not much, but it's higher than West Ham. So to put a struggling team on his back, his boyhood club, and come through with 2 goals like that against, like you say, not just anybody. This is against the Copa Libertadores champions, who, granted, haven't started well at all, but are still a notable scalp, and he's really come up good there, and I don't think there's anybody else who we could have gone for.
No, absolutely not. It's had to be him, didn't it? And like I said, I think he'll be in the conversation if he keeps, definitely if he keeps this up, not only for a move to Europe, obviously, but into the Brazil squad, maybe for the Copa America, if he can keep that up. You know what I mean? Because like you said, it wasn't just against them; it was against any team. It was against Fluminense, who, like I said, Libertadores winners. I know the older lads in the back line, but they're very experienced in that line on Sunday evening. It was Marcelo Melo and Messias. The only one under the age of 30 was Guga, the right back. So I know they're older, and maybe he's youthful, can get by him a bit easier, but there's loads of experience in that back line, and it was very, very impressive the way that second goal, the way he just sort of danced past them all and put it in the net was marvellous, really.
Yeah, and the manager was quite kind of restrained about him afterwards. I think everybody's as they do in Brazil, and in Europe, really anywhere, when a young player comes through and has such a big moment like that, people tend to go overboard and label him as some kind of prodigious. And that's the danger with Corinthians now, because the rest of the team isn't particularly exciting, and they don't want to put too much pressure on Wesley. But then again, he looks like he can handle it. But Antonio Oliveira said afterwards, he's a good boy. He's important, but we have a team that supports him as well. So he's trying to be, a little bit, put the handbrake on and just say, look, he's important, but the rest of the team has been good as well, and not to build him up too much. I think there was something in the press with the manager calling him lazy or something, and he said, yeah, he had a bit of a go at me about that. And they had a bit of banter about it, I think, but that's instructive. He's kind of called him out, and Wesley's come up and answered that. So yeah, big result for Corinthians, and a much needed one. It was interesting as well. They dropped the goalkeeper Cassio, who's a stalwart of the club. He's played hundreds and hundreds of games, and he was left out of the team, which was interesting. And they kept a clean sheet again. They've actually only conceded 3 in the first 4 games, which isn't bad considering they had only just yesterday or the weekend was the first win. So we'll see if he stays out of the team. It would be a shame, really, because he is a big kind of part of that club, but sometimes you have to make a big decision like that. And Oliveira's put his neck on the block and said, look, I'm dropping a big player. And they've come up and won. So huge result for them, and a well-deserved young player of the round. I don't know if you want to touch on Fluminense at all, George.
No, not really, James. I mean, there's not really too much to say about them, really. Like you said, they're really struggling at this moment in time. And they just haven't got going at all. And it's an experienced team, like we've covered before. It's an experienced manager in Denise, and again, you've got to ask questions of them. Like Palmeiras, only 1 win in the 4 games so far. 2 defeats. There's got to be questions asked. Particularly, I know they've got the Brazilian Cup game against Sampino Carrera on Wednesday evening. It's a massive game next week, isn't it, against Scalo? And you've got to say, if they don't get anything from that, he might be on the chopping blocks as well. So they're just not been good enough. I was really surprised by this result. I expected Fluminense to win. Corinthians hadn't played the best football up until now, and Oliveira, the new man in charge, hadn't really got them going yet. But it was a fantastic result. Fluminense have got to just pick themselves up and go again. It's such an experienced team. I know a lot of people might say now they're a bit over the hill. Like I said, that back line, they're all pretty much 34 and over. You've got Mello in there who's 40.
They need to draw on that and just get themselves out. If they don't get anything from the weekend, I think we can count them out of perhaps the title. Well, I mean, I'll count them out, but it's going to be looking difficult. But anyway, let's move on. That's the player and young player of the round boxed off. And
before we go, James, and move on to the goal of the goal of the round. Yeah, I just want to mention you mentioned Cassio. He's been there for over 10 years, like 12 years now. Just have a guess how many games he's played, because it's quite unbelievable.
It's a lot. It's 800 odd.
It's 697. Yeah. Just short of set. Incredible. Incredible. And to say he got dropped, I don't know when the last time he would have been dropped. For a league game, I have no idea. But Carlos Miguel obviously came in instead of him. Like you said, be interested to see whether they go forward, with him in the future.
Yeah, we'll have to see on that one. But yeah, like I say, moving on to goal of the round, and again, we're going to have to disagree on this one. There were some contenders, as there does seem to be every week, to be honest.
Well,
we've talked about a couple of them already. The Luis Enrique one had to be up there. The Wesley one is one of the goals of the week for sure. That's one of the best goals you'll see possibly all season. But There were one or two others. I enjoyed a chap called Derek, which is a good name for a Brazilian chap. He scored a nice goal for Atletico Gio, little dink over the keeper, which was pretty good. But the one I enjoyed the most was Mateus, like I said before, for Criciúma. He scored two really accomplished finishes, but the first one is just a lovely goal. I mean, it's a flick on from Balassi, right up in the air, and Mateus just brings it down on his chest. And what I really loved about it was he went with the outside of his boot, and it's such a nonchalant finish from about 25 yards on the bounce, just wraps his foot around the outside and just buries it into the bottom corner or kind of middle of the goal. So, he just looked like he was playing with, on the park with his mates, and he was playing away at Vasco, and he bagged two brilliant goals. So for me, that one was the goal of the week. But we are a united front, so it did miss out. And George, do you want to tell us what it missed out to? Because it did miss out to a beautiful goal as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think just a minute on Felipe Mateus. I think, James, that was it's his first. I think it's his first season playing in Serie A. So it was, quite something that really the first couple of. It was his first goal, I think. That was the first goal, wasn't it, of the game? It was the first goal of the weekend. It was his first goal ever in Serie A. So what a way to introduce yourself to the top division of Brazilian football by scoring a goal like that. It was a wonderful goal. I mean, he's 33 as well, so it's not like he's a young player. He's a journeyman, Serie C, Serie B, but the first time he's played at Serie A level, at top flight level. So it was a great finish. It was a lovely goal. And
he's a bit of a Gene Carlos then, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a similar sort of player to Gene, really. And yeah, look, there's loads of them around. And to be fair, in sort of teams like Criciúma, I mean, we were looking at Criciúma, weren't we, before the game started, and Vasco as well. To be fair, and I couldn't believe the sort of average age of the starting 11s. There's, I think there was only one player for Criciúma under the age of like 25. So
yeah,
there's a lot of 30-something-year-olds in both sides. Dimitri Payet for Vasco as well. But obviously didn't have a bearing on this game. It was a lovely goal by Mateus, and fair play to him as well. Like you said, could have been a man for player of the round as well. But the one we've gone for in the end was Gustavo Scarpa. Lovely free kick, low free kick. I think it was a second goal in Galo's 3-0 win over Cuiabá, away at Cuiabá. And yeah, it was just a technique of it, and we haven't seen a goal like this, I don't think, yet this season. It was, just outside the D, I think, to left side of the D, and he just under the wall, right along the floor into the bottom left-hand corner. It was a lovely goal, and I think Scarpa, definitely could maybe be the difference in Galo winning it and not winning it. They look like a real contender so far. I know the sort of big hitters haven't really got going yet, but they're among the early pace setters with Botafogo. So it was a great goal, James. And like I said, I think he maybe possibly got an assist as well in this game. I'm not quite sure, but sorry, he just got the goal. But he just got one goal this time, but he's proved important so far in the early stages of the season. I think he'll do so in the later stages as well as it continues. It's a great goal.
Yeah, we saw him last week, a beautiful assist in Gallo's game, and they look like deferring now. So yeah, a good goal. Like I said, it was one of a number of really good ones, but just the wall, one of those where the wall jumps and he just decides I'm rolling it underneath. Ronaldinho used to do it a little bit. So yeah, a worthy winner for sure. And Scarpa could well be the best player in the league, to be quite honest. He's spent time in Europe. He's come back. He's obviously was a Palmeiras player before. He's won a couple of league titles already, a couple of Libertadores, Copa do Brazil. He's won it all with Palmeiras, and now he's come to collect with Galo as well, it looks like. So he could be the best player in the league, and he's already shown his quality. And yeah, he's a deserving winner, and it's about time that we kind of touched on him. So yeah, well done for Gustavo Scarpa there, a worthy winner of the goal of the round.
I I think Forest, James, would wish they had this kind of form from him when he played, when he played for them. I'm only 6 appearances in the Premier League. I mean, the only other experience he's had in Europe is Olympiacos, which he went to just shortly after that. But otherwise, it's been, like you said, he's been quite successful in Brazil, really, with Palmeiras in particular.
Yeah, and he's in his prime now. He's 30, I think. So Forest was a weird one.
Yeah,
Forest seems to be really tapping into the Brazilian market, but not always fully getting it right. Although they've done well with Danilo, they've done well with Murillo. So, it just didn't work. But he's back, and we're the kind of beneficiaries of that, really. So, well done to Gustavo Scarpa, and that rounds off the awards for this week. So, let's move on to look ahead just to what's coming over the coming days. So, like we said, Galo going away to Fluminense, to the Maracanã, to Rio, to try and pile more misery on Fluminense after that big defeat to Corinthians. So it's obviously one of 10 games this weekend, and that is going to be one of them that we'll look at, but not to spoil the surprise of the other one. So, George, do you want to give a quick run through of what we can look forward to in the Brasileirão this weekend?
Yeah, I will do, James. It'll be a pleasure again to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, obviously, I think every single team have a Brazilian Cup game in the week as well. Yeah. So that's to take into account as well. But the fixture list for Matchday 5 is as follows. So we kick off on Saturday, the 4th of May, at 8 p.m. Corinthians host Fortaleza. Fluminense at the same time, 8 p.m. English time, British time. They, like James said, they host Galo. And then at 10:30, it is Red Bull Bragantino against Flamengo. Going on into Sunday, the 5th of May, then at 1 a.m. in the morning. I know you're excited for this one, James. You'll be up. You won't be able to sleep. It's Cruzeiro against Inter. And then you'll have to wait until 8 p.m. English, British time again, until Paranense against Vasco da Gama. Also at the same time is Grêmio Criciúma and Vitória Sao Paulo. And then at 10:30 British time, Botafogo hosts Bahia. And also at the same time, Cuiabá, they face Palmeiras. And then to finish off the weekend, the Matchday 5, there's no game on the Monday, but Tuesday, the 7th of May at midnight British time, Juventude. It's a relegation, sorry, not a relegation thing. It's a promotion battle of two promoted sides. Juventude face Atletico GO. So that concludes Matchday 5 fixtures, James.
Super. So yeah, we'll have a look at the game of the weekend. So you're going to take Fluminense and hope your boys Galo are going to go and have another convincing win. So
come on, Galo, yes.
Come on, Galo. Hopefully not another 0-0 for you this time.
Hopefully there's some goals, James,
Yeah, what do you feel about that one? Do you think it's going to be an away victory?
Look, I mean, maybe it's the time that Fluminense come of age in this season. Maybe, current form would point to Atletico, Mineiro, a win for Galo. But it's not always easy as that, is it? Going away, Fluminense, they're still a decent side, can cause problems. But I expect a free-scoring game. I'm probably going to go with a draw on that one, but I think it'll be quite a few goals in this one actually. But hopefully Galo nick it in from my point of view. But let's wait and see.
Well, hopefully you've been storing up the goals. Hopefully they'll all come at once because you've had a bit of a bad luck with those last two. Really,
absolutely, yeah, nothing much to get my teeth into, unfortunately. But like I said, you'll be excited for your team into going to Cruzeiro, so
yeah,
that'll
for
be
sure.
an interesting one. Yeah,
it will be. Yeah, it was a bit of a disappointing bit of a disappointing result for Inter. A bit of a disappointing 2 results really after such a good start. A loss and a draw in the last 2, and they should have really beaten Atletico Gio really, and that would just kind of halted the momentum a bit. So not an easy game away at Cruzeiro. They've started in similar fashion really, both level on 7 points. So be a kind of tough game really, and it was a contender I think for our other game of the week. Actually, it looks a good one, but we have covered Inter already, and we have covered Cruzeiro actually as well. Last week, I think, or the week, last week we did the Belo Horizonte derby, didn't we? So we're actually going to look at something slightly different, and I'm going to cover the promotion battlers, or they are probably relegation battlers really, but last year's promotion guys, Juventud against Atletico Gio. So I'm going to cover that one and just kind of take a look at those 2 teams a bit more in depth, and let's see if Jean Carlos can turn up the goods for us this time. So they're the 2 games we're going to cover as our games of the weekend. But yeah, looking at the kind of the table, George, I know if you want to run through the table, and then I think I might ask you just to, because we're kind of 4 games in now, and the table starts to take a little bit of shape, and I'm just going to ask you if you run through the table, and then I'm going to ask you if anything's standing out to you from the early kind of weeks.
Yeah, of course, James, of course. I mean, just to touch on Gene's injured, actually, James. So
is he?
He won't be featuring, so you won't have the pleasure of looking into him a little bit more, into his performance a little bit more deeply. It's a shame, but he's back potentially in a few weeks, so you haven't got long to wait to enjoy his performances again. So
get well soon, Gene.
Yeah, that's it. Get well soon, mate. Get back on the pitch. But yeah, if we look at the table, then if I run through the table. And it is as follows, James. Like you said, new leaders in this one. Botafogo top the table on 9 points. In second is Gallo on 8. Also on 8 is RB Bragantino in third. Now 4th to 8th all have 7 points. It is Paranense in 4th, Bahia, Inter in 6th, 7th is Cruzeiro, and 8th is Flamengo. Also then into 9th is Grêmio on 6. Then middle of the table is Criciúma on 5. Also on 5 are Fortaleza in 11th, Palmeiras in 12th, and Juventud in 13th. Then come Sao Paulo in 14th on 4 points. Corinthians in 15, also on 4 points, and then 16th, also on 4 points, are Fluminense. Into the relegation zones then, James, and 17th is Vasco da Gama on 3 points. In 18th, with 1 point, is Vitória. 19th, also on 1 point, is Atletico Gio, and propping up the table, although they've played 1 game less than most of the teams, is Cuiabá, who I continue to struggle how to say it for some reason. They are on 0 points, James.
Yeah, Cuiabá, you can't seem to get a grasp of that one, can you? But
I just can't do it. I don't know why. Cuiabá. But Cuiabá.
Say like Kumbaya.
Kumbaya. Maybe I just call them that now.
Cuiabá, my lord. Cuiabá.
Well, maybe you can go and teach them that song at the next game. I don't know.
They probably already know it. It's a classic, isn't it?
Well, mind you, they play Goiás on Friday, and then they've got like we said, Palmeiras. So they've got a big game at Palmeiras. And look, they need to really, get their act together. They're on 0 points. Got thrashed. They got thrashed on the weekend, didn't they? By obviously Gallo. It was a difficult game, but yeah, they need to get going, don't they? Get performing a bit.
Yeah, and so the Palmeiras, they got a thrashing at Paranense as well early on, Cuiabá. So I think we tipped them to go down, and it's looking that way. But anyway, if you just, like I say, we're 4 games on, so just before we end, just wanted to ask you if there's anything that stands out about the early rounds, anybody that's stood out to you or surprised you or anything along those lines?
Well, one that's kind of surprising to me a little bit, James, and maybe not to seasoned viewers and followers of the of the league, is kind of how Bahia are doing at the moment. They're in 5th position. And like I say, season watch and stuff, they have got their new ownership in the City group, haven't they? And like I said, I don't know how they usually quite perform, or have been performing in terms of performances and on the pitch and things. But definitely these, for me, are the standout sort of performers so far. 4 games in, 7 points. They've really win against Fluminense, win against Gremio, who were up there in 2nd position, finished 2nd last season. So no pushovers, these lot, and it's Seni, isn't it? The former goalkeeper, Sao Paulo keeper. He's the manager. He seems to be doing a very good job of it. I think down the other end, James, if I'm looking at both ends of the table, you can only be surprised at Fluminense's start of the season. That's a real sort of standout look. They've got to do better. Because Denise will be gone if they're not going to win any games here. Soon.
Fluminense haven't even had a difficult start, really. When you look at the games,
really, not at all, really. Bahia, RB Bragantino, Bahia, Vasco, and then Corinthians. You'd expect them to get, I don't know, at least sort of upwards of 7 points and more, wouldn't you? Really, from those 4 games, and they've come out with a measly 4. It's not good enough, really.
Yeah, I agree. I think I tipped them for the title, and that is looking like a really, really poor prediction at the minute. But I think I just want to pick out those 2. Yeah, Bahia, I think were just above the relegation zone last year, so they're not regularly challenging at all up there. But I wanted to pick out Criciúma as well because, I mean, they've only played 3, whereas most other teams have played 4. But you look at the other teams that have come up with them. Vitória have played 3 and just got a point. Atletico Gio have played 4 and are just on a point as well. Juventude are doing quite well, but I think we both kind of had them down as staying up. But Criciúma are unbeaten in 3 games, 2 draws, 1 win. Obviously, the draw against Juventude kicked them off, and then they've drawn against Gallo away, which is a really good result. And then they've followed that up by absolutely thrashing Vasco, who were in a bit of a spot of bother themselves, but thrashing them in their own backyard, and that's going to breed confidence. And I think they've got Gremio next away, which Gremio might be sweating on that a bit. They're just a place above them. So yeah, I like the look of Criciúma. We touched on Balassi and Felipe Mateus. Look like they're having a ball out there. So I'm keeping an eye on them. I like their colours as well. It's quite an interesting shirt. It's a bit of a Cambridge type, not Notts County, a bit of a Cambridge-esque type with the orange and the yellow, the white, and then a bit of kind of yellow as well. Sorry, what is it? It's yellow, black, and white, isn't it? Yeah. Not really Cambridge, is it? Although there's something about it that kind of looks a bit.
Well, Cambridge is black and gold, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, black and gold.
So it's similar colours, but it's nice. It's a nice sort of aesthetically pleasing sort of colours on the shirts, isn't it? Really as well, and they've done really well. Like we said about their makeup of their squad, it's quite old by the look of it, but they're going without any pressure. Really, probably expected to get relegated. So first season in 10 years in the top flight. So no pressure on them. The other 2 at least look like they're faltering a little bit. Like you said, we both, based on absolutely nothing, like we said, expect Juventude to stay up. And it's proven right so far. So yeah, it's interesting. It's shaping up to be an interesting season, really.
Yeah, it is, as we knew it would be. So there we go. That wraps up Matchday 4 of Talking Brazil Ball. As always, follow us on Instagram and Twitter and things just to see, or X, sorry, just to see, you can get ahead on the awards and things like that, and see any other insight that we've got out there. So once again, guys, thank you very much for listening. It's been another good episode. A few disagreements, I think, along the way, but we're all friends again at the end. Anything you'd like to add just before we say goodbye, George?
Well, it's something that I forgot to add on, when I was covering the Sao Paulo derby, James. It was actually the highest recorded attendance, I think, in the stadium, or a derby game, I think, or it was some kind of record. And it was just over 55,600 and some. So there was quite a lot of people there. Also to mention about Fluminense as well, just before we end, James, they've got a bit of some kind of problems with the players in terms of how would you say it, kind of discipline and things like this. There was a fair number of them that were left out because of including John Kennedy for his kind of discrepancies in the game last weekend. So he missed 2 of the games, including the loss at Corinthians. So that's something as well that's probably adding to their bad feeling as well. There seems to be players that aren't doing as they should be doing it by the look of it as well. So there's obviously something not right there, and they've got to address it quickly.
Yeah, off-field problems. I think John Kennedy's had quite a raft of those. Anyway, that concludes the episode. So thank you, everybody, for listening. And do you want to play us out, George? We've got some funky music to say goodbye.
Adios. Yeah. Adios. See you next week.